All right, what's up, gentlemen? We're live for another episode of the Playing to Win series. As you guys know, this is all about playing to win rather than playing not to lose, which might sound similar, but they are different. We're taking a slight detour from the entrepreneur type business talks that I've had in the past, and I'm joined by a guest today by the name of Abuamerican, who is a Muslim American. And he's got some experience with, well, he's got a bit of a knack of living with multiple women, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you. Yes,
So,
I do have a knack for it.
so we've got a bit of a show today. I got to apologize for Tristan. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it. He originally committed, but it looks like he's got crap internet where he's at in the small hotel in Romania. So I don't believe we'll be seeing him here today. But we've got a lot coming your way with Abu and what's going on with that. So just real quick, I just want to shout out to the book launch that I just hit today. So I'm going to throw that in the screen. It is now available on Amazon, pretty much anywhere in the world. In some places, it's still not quite available for print order just yet. But here, I'll drop it in the chat. If you didn't catch the announcement or you're not on my email list, that's where you get it there. Looks like it's doing pretty good. You can grab it on Kindle or paperback. I will have an Audible version probably next year. I'm told it's quite the undertaking to do the audio recording and the post-production, all that sort of stuff. So it will be available hopefully by spring, summer of next year, but it is coming. It'll be available on Kobo, Apple Books, Google Play. I think Ingram Sparks is another one that I'm working on. So it should be readily available on pretty much every platform that you want to look at it. But there you go. It's there now if you want to grab it. Less than $10 on Kindle, $14 if it's paperback. So grab a copy. Christmas is coming. It's a great little gift for any man in your life or for yourself that might be struggling with understanding the reality of the world. It's really just a collection of how can I put this? Conversations that your dad should have had with you to unplug you from comforting lies and kind of set you up for the reality of the world. Stuff that I wish that I knew when I was 20. So just my own personal experiences, and I've coached close to 1,000 guys now. So there's lots of good information there. It's an easy read. You should be able to blast through it in a day. It's like 200 pages. Anyway, there's that there. Do we want to go with Abu or do you want to go with Craig?
You can go ahead and call me Craig. It's okay. I think it's easier for everybody else. And Abu's, it's kind of like calling me dad. So it's kind of like,
all right. Yeah. Let's go with the Batman origin story. So you're a Muslim American. Were you born into a Muslim family? Like, how did you get to that? And how did you end up in Germany?
Man, ended up in Germany through the military, and also how I ended up becoming a Muslim. So basically the first Gulf War, I was in Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. That was basically, I think at the time it was CENTCOM. They were, running the war from Ramstein, and I was working there. A friend of mine, he's a white American. He became Muslim while he was stationed in Saudi Arabia. He came back, told me about Islam, and I was totally shocked because in my mind, I thought only like Arabs and brown people were Muslims. And so he started teaching me about Islam. I went to high school with this guy, and then I became a Muslim. Yeah. So I'm the first Muslim in my family.
What does the family think of the conversion?
My family was okay with it. I mean, I'm actually one of the few revert stories where the family didn't flip out and sort of disown you or anything. I didn't really face a whole lot of problems in that regard. So I feel blessed.
So what was it about Islam that attracted you to it? Like, did you just kind of look at it like these guys seem to have it figured out? They have a better rule book than I've been using, or?
Yeah, yes. Like we say in German, jein, yes and no. I was kind of disillusioned, if that's the right word, with Christianity. I found a lot of problems with it in terms of just, some of the core beliefs. And so I just decided I was gonna be a person who believed in God, but not through, religion. And so when Islam came along, it has like a science to it. And it also appeals to your spirituality because it is a belief. So the science is behind it. There's multiple, fields in Islamic science that appeal to my rationale, and the spiritual side, of course, is the belief. So it was very easy for me personally to believe in Islam.
And of course, with Islam, you've got the ability to have multiple wives.
Absolutely.
Does that, like, you're gonna have to forgive me for being new at this because I'm not a particularly religious guy, so I'll probably be asking like basic type of questions that you've probably heard 1,000 times. But for my own sake of clarity, for guys that are new to this watching, like the theme of the show is really, there's like, most of you guys probably don't know this unless you've read books like Alpha God. You've dove into a lot of Evo Psych, but throughout history, most successful top shelf alpha males that had access to more resources often had more than one woman in their life, sometimes multiple wives with concubines. In fact, here, let me throw up on the screen. I was talking to Craig about this before we went live, so add to stream. We got Ishmael the Bloodthirsty, who was he's actually in the Guinness Book of World Records, apparently, for siring the most children in the 1700s, I believe it was. If I go to marriages and concubines here, he had 4 official wives, including, well, I'm not going to pronounce the names, but famous for beauty, intelligence, substantial. He had at least 500 concubines. Now, if you don't know what a concubine is, how would you describe concubine, Greg?
Well, Islamically, that would probably be considered to be slaves. Islamically, back in that time, slaves were allowed. If the Islamic army conquered a land, they were allowed to take female slaves. So they would probably be considered, in his time, they were probably considered property in that regard.
Yeah. Total of 868 children, 525 sons, 343 daughters, and is recorded in 1703 with his 700th son being born shortly after his death in 1727. So this dude was working right up to his deathbed on popping out children. By which time he had, well, now this is a little bit confusing because it goes from a total of 868 children to saying he had well over 1,000 children. The final total is uncertain, but he's in the Guinness Book of World Records and it claims 1,042. But the University of Vienna puts the total at 1,171. He's widely considered to have sired the largest number of children of any human in history, although I'm not sure they're taking into consideration who was that Mongol? What was his name?
Was it Attila?
No, not Attila the Hun.
Oh, I know what you mean.
You know who I'm talking about? He just tore across something like 2 or 3% of human DNA today can be traced back to that one man.
The Mongol guy. What was his name? They built a Great Wall of China to stop him.
You guys know who I'm talking about. Put it in the chat. I'm sure you'll all recall. But this was not that uncommon. If you read a book like Alpha God, there's many examples that have been portrayed throughout history where it was totally Genghis Khan. That's it.
There you go.
There was many examples throughout history where rich, successful guys would take on multiple wives, have multiple children, and often multiple concubines. In many cases, a lot of these concubines were protected and guarded, including the wives, by eunuchs. And if you don't know what a eunuch is, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, that's a man where they cut off the reproductive organs. So it's just kind of it at the end of the day. But this is something that's kind of been forgotten, if we're being honest. And I actually find it fascinating today that we have like billionaires out there, the equivalent of what would have processed them throughout time. Guys like Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, name after name after name, like all these super wealthy guys, and they have one wife and like 3 kids or 2 kids.
The Facebook guy. Yeah, I find it a mystery too, man. I don't get it.
Yeah. So you get into Islam. You've got married. How many wives and children do you have right now?
I have 9 children and currently I have 2 wives, but it looks like I'm about to up the game on the wives, so I probably be taking on a 3rd very soon. Okay. Yeah.
How does that work with the wife situation when you take on new wives?
Before I used to introduce them, I mean, just going on when I'm about to get married, I usually introduce them before I get married, but now I just stopped doing that because generally they all panic when you marry again. And so what happens is you end up dealing with the temporary stress and emotions that they go through, but without the benefit of having an extra wife. So I stopped introducing them at this point. I go out and do it. And I tell them, hey, look, I'll be gone for 3 days. And when I come back, I'm gonna have another wife. So boom. Mm-hmm. That's basically how it goes.
Do you end up dating other women while you're married?
Generally don't I'll chat to them here or there, online or whatever else. I'll I'll meet women, just to see what they're really like, run them through some tests. I do a whole vetting system, but in terms of dates, I don't really, mess around with dates. I mean, some people call that dates if you meet them. I don't know, but it's not in the sense that we understand in the West.
And, if I'm moving into areas that are offside, just, let's cast the question aside. But I mean, like, is there sex before marriage? Like, how does that work?
No, generally, no. Some people do it. Apparently, I do some one-to-one sessions with people who do that, but Islamically, it's not considered to be correct. It's considered one of the major sins in Islam to like have sex outside of marriage. Okay. So, according to the rules, which most people follow, you just meet and then you get married, and then you get the action on.
It's interesting because when you kind of start working in this space and you talk to a lot of guys, I'm not surprised by it. I don't even think I was surprised by it when I came across it, if I'm being honest, but there's a lot of guys out there that run game on multiple women, whether it's marriage, girlfriends, spinning plates, openly or not, whatever. But there's a lot of it that goes on out there. I think it's in human nature to begin with. We already know that women are more than happy to share a high value alpha and would rather do that than be straddled with a faithful loser. Absolutely. How do you deal with drama between multiple women in your life? Because I saw a post that you did on Twitter. It was months ago, and I think you broke their phones because they were getting some drama on like social media or something.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, generally, withdrawal of attention, time and attention is something that I do. But when that doesn't work and they get spooled up, for lack of a better term, then I got to become a little bit more proactive and just take away their means or whatever the source is of that drama and cut it off. In this regard, one of my current wives actually don't like each other. This is a unique situation. And so they have some online. And I really don't like it. It's just, it just doesn't look good, whether people are battling online individually, but when two wives are doing it, it's even worse. And so, she went out of bounds, went off reservation. And, since she wouldn't stop, I took away her means of being online, and I destroyed her electronics. I'm not going to do like kids and hide it and put it up on a high shelf where she can't reach it. It's like, there has to be some sort of consequences. And she paid for it. And I just like, look, okay, fine. That's it.
When
because I'm not going to be violent with a woman in general. So, she has to understand. It's like,
you're freezing up, bro. You know what? Kill your video feed.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I should do that.
Should just do that for a bit. See if the bandwidth frees up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. So you're not free. So just back up about 5 seconds because your audio clipped and your screen froze.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, beating up on women and stuff is not really a thing in Islam. It is grounds for like her to, seek a divorce. So, I had to take other means to let her know. It's like, I do run the show here, and if you're not going to play by the rules, then we're going to have to take, extraordinary measures to, bring things under control, which was send her back to her parents. That was the next step. But
really.
Yeah.
If you don't behave, I'm going to turn this car around and drop you off at your parents' house, sort of thing.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay.
There's a lot of women out there. I don't have to deal with drama from one.
So anytime there's drama in your relationship, with your wives, you can basically say, look, if we don't tighten this up, then you're going back to your parents' house.
Absolutely.
And then what happens to the children? Do they stay with you? Do they go with the mother?
In this current day and age, they usually go with the mother. But Islamically, after a certain age, the children should be with the father. But at the very young age, there's as far as I know, there's different opinions, but it said we're between like 5 to 11, depending on who you ask.
Okay.
But I've made it clear at this point with my current wife, if anything ever happens, my son's staying with me because, there's a house full of girls and he's the first boy, and I'm not going to have him, growing up around a bunch of estrogen and, try and emulate it. It's just not going to happen to him.
How difficult was it for you to adjust to living with multiple women prior to Islam?
Dude, that's a steep learning curve. I first tried it in Qatar, no experience whatsoever, and I had two women who had a semi dislike for each other, and I had a third that was living in Germany, and that was really really that actually brought me on to my whole journey. That's how I ran into like, Rolo and the manosphere and everything, because by definition of Western understanding of what a man's supposed to be doing, that lovey-dovey guy that pays all the bills and all that stuff, I was doing everything right, but everything was still going wrong. And so that was tough. I don't advise anybody, if you don't have any experience, with multiple women running game and then multiple relationships, do not just try and like, hey, I'm good with women, so let me grab two and put them in the same house, or, run an open game. I don't advise it. This is something that takes practice time. You want to talk to other people who've done it before. It's not a sales pitch. I'm just saying, find somebody who does game like that and talk to them. It doesn't have to be me, but it's not something to mess around with. You can really, if you have a hard time with women and the drama of one woman, multiply it by 2 or 3 or whatever else, it can make you crazy,
Yeah, like that's the thing that I hear often from guys that are running multiple women simultaneously, whether they're married, whether they're girlfriends, whether they're having just children with them. It's like, yeah, they hate each other. And I often wonder, like, are we just complicating our lives as men by inviting this into our day-to-day now? I mean, like the world we live in today is not Ishmael the Bloodthirsty. Like he would just off somebody if he felt like it, right?
True.
He's running a harem of like 800 concubines and siring over 1,000 children. He's got like a military that's like collecting all these beautiful women and bringing them back to him, sort of thing. And he's assigning eunuchs to them. It's like, this is a slightly different time today, right? Like, I'm wondering, how is it that this works in this environment, especially when we have this toxic version of feminism that's unavoidable? I mean, it's going to reach all women. That's going to tell them, don't do anything for the express pleasure of men. You are worth the same as men. You're exactly, the same as men. You're identical to men. There's no difference between the two of you. And there's all this blending of all this sort of stuff. Like, I'm just wondering how that all works for you today, because that must have been you said it was a steep learning curve, but talk about that a little bit more. Do you have some stories that you can share?
Yeah. Well, what I did was I got married. I was married to a Kenyan girl, and I actually picked her up in Kenya. And I brought her back to my place, and I met a Somali girl. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, drop dead beautiful Somali girl. And so I was going to get married. And I didn't mention it to anybody, not out of fear. I just, going back to the principle that I'm following now, just do it and don't talk to them about it. So basically, I went and I got married. And I told the Kenyan girl, I said, look, I'm going to get married. I'll be gone for 3 days, because that's what she was previously married. So non-virgins get 3 days, a virgin gets 7 days. So I said, I'll be back in 3 days. So I took my new wife, and we stayed in a hotel, took her around, little marriage. What do you call it? What's that thing called when you get married?
I don't know.
Anyway, honeymoon. There you go.
Okay.
So took her on a little like honeymoon, and then we're home. And it was just kind of like, okay, here she is. And then here's her co-wife, because the Somali girl didn't even know I was married, So on the way to the house, I said, hey, look, we're about to go into a situation here, and I'm going to need you to like, cooperate and whatnot, and, think about the situation. And then she's like, well, what is it? And I was like, yeah, well, you got a co-wife. She's here, and she thought we were like all going to be in the same room or whatever else. I had a massive villa. So there's some brief drama where she like freaked out, but really it went smooth. I put her in her apartment, and they were combined in terms of the kitchen and some of the common areas, but otherwise it was big enough to where they wouldn't run into each other. But the problem started when I went to work, and then they would start hanging out with each other and trading stories and, and all this other stuff. And then I come back, and it was clear at that point that they were like, plotting, I don't know what ends or avail, but, they were like just running their little games on me back and forth, and trying to get the higher up position in my eyes and in my heart amongst one another, and using me as like the middleman. So it was sort of like they're trying to play me. And when I wouldn't fall for it, they would start drama. And usually I didn't fall for it, despite saying, I did everything right. And I was kind of playing a sort of a beta game. At my core, I was still good with women. And so I was kind of like, something's off here. And I'd go back to my whole, personal frame, and just lock everything down emotionally and, socially, and be like, look, no, this is what we're going to do. And this is how it happened. And that would cause more drama, because I didn't know how to deal with women and their emotions like I do now. And so I would actually wind them up even more, as opposed to bringing everything down and controlling the situation. And it happens rapidly, to the point that actually there was a knife fight at one point. And I got cut, trying to break it up. It was crazy. The police came, everything.
With each other with knives?
Yeah, they were fighting with, and I involved. And I was actually an officer in the Qatari military, a civilian officer in the Qatari military. So the police were involved, not national, security forces for the military got involved. My Kenyan wife got deported. It was a real crazy drama. Almost messed up my life there. It was really bad.
Wow. Okay. So were these women Muslim when you met them, or did you convert them over?
The Somali was born and raised upon Islam. They have like a 98% Muslim population in Somalia. Right. The Kenyan was a revert, and so was my German wife. She was a revert. Yeah. Okay. But in Kenya they have polygyny. That's even for the non-Muslims there. It's pretty common that the men have multiple women. So yeah, it wasn't like
you said that you had a German wife. So you've got 2 wives right now. Did you lose one, or did something change?
Yeah, lots changed in between then. From that moment on till now, dude, I've married and divorced so many women because I'll just pull the trigger on women nowadays. I'll get married and I'll divorce them like if they just start bringing a bunch of drama, because a lot of negative attributes that I wouldn't want to experience again personally as a man came out of me dealing with those women in Qatar. And so now I'm just like, look, if you bring that out of me, you got to go. I mean, guys might want to crap on me for it, but I'll be honest. I actually became physically... I came hands-on with women. We know what I'm talking about. It's not something that you feel good about as a man, especially when you didn't grow up in a household looking at dysfunctionality like that. So, but I came to find that these women, they grew up in that household. So for them, it was common. What was fortunate was the law in Qatar, because it's the Middle East, is always on your side as a man. You could Superman punch a woman and they're just like, yeah, whatever. That's a personal thing. Y'all gonna have to deal with that on your own. So just now I just get rid of women when they bring me to that level of anger. So I've been married and divorced too many times since then, but I've been using each one as a learning experience. And that's why I put out my guide to what type of women to look for, what not to look for, because I've seen it all really.
Okay. So how many wives have you had total?
No, I'm thinking here. I know my video's off. 11 or 12. Yeah, like 11 or 12 married. Yeah. It's been a lot, man.
Okay, so you had a dozen wives roughly, but you got 2 right now that you're still with. How long have these 2 been with you?
My first wife, 4 years, coming up on 5. The second one, 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the children? Like, did you have any kids with the other 10 odd women too?
Yeah, one of them I had kids with immediately. It was a Yemeni girl in London. She got pregnant very quickly, and I have a daughter in London. I still talk to her online, but I haven't, because of the whole Rona stuff, I don't go see her that often. I had children with my current wife, Indonesian wife. I have 2 children, 6 with my ex, and 1 with the Yemeni girl. Yeah.
Okay. And do you normally keep them in the same house, or do you have separate apartments, separate houses for them? Like, how do you normally run that?
Well, my sons and whatnot, and my daughter, they come up here regularly. My ex-wife that I had 6 kids with, she's my neighbor. Literally, we live in a split house, and she's my neighbor. She lives in the next house in the same building. And so my kids are over here with my other kids from my Indonesian wife regularly. Like today, me and my son, we were doing some MMA training, and he was a little brother from my current wife. It's they see a difference. They just see siblings. And that's how I raised them, actually. So
yeah. How does that work out for you? Like, if you're living with 2 of your wives, you got an ex-wife next door to you with a few of your kids as well. Like, what's that like?
It's good and it's bad. I mean, there was a point before my ex-wife got married that, she would literally do anything for me, so like she would go to the airport and pick up. I have a Polish ex-wife who is Muslim, and she would pick her up from the airport for me when I was working, and I didn't have time to pick her up. But at the same time, it was bad because she would start, telling her stories from the past that she, as a woman, maybe saw harmless. You never know. To sabotage and play those little social games, and that would bring up, questions with the Polish girl that just like, it's not your concern. What are you asking me this goofy stuff for? That was a really good relationship because, she fit in the household really well. And, it was great to have multiple women walking around the house, skimpy clothes and all that stuff. It was great, man. But bad is bad. And she had to go. She was a bad apple, unfortunately.
So, do you do any vetting before you marry these women? Because, I don't want this to come off as sounding disparaging, but you're not batting very good when it comes to success with picking wives. You've got 10 or 12 ex-wives. Is there any vetting that's involved beforehand, or is this like a skill that you've kind of learned over time to try to, deal with not having the negative consequences along the way?
Some of both. I mean, generally I did some vetting. And some women, like the Polish woman, she was really good at hiding who she really was. Other times I was like, you know what, I know this is a bad idea, let me go see if I can do it. And I tell my guys all the time, I do it so, I try everything so you don't have to. And sometimes I'm just like, I know it's a bad idea, and I'm like, maybe let me see if I can actually flip this situation. Let me see if there's actually an alternative here that will work. And generally, no, it doesn't work, so yeah, some of it's experimentation. Other times, it's just one slips under the radar. But yeah, I do vetting. And I've struck out more women than I've married. I've written off hundreds, if not more, of women than I've actually married. I just struck 4 off a list last week, just for, what is it called? Not ghosting, but when you set up a meeting and then they flaking. So flaking, so I just like, yeah. So.
All right. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the vetting. I know that you have a course on it, based on your experiences, but if we can get some of those details, that'd be awesome. Let me just grab these chats here, because I got a few channel members that just joined. So welcome, Tiago, and welcome Brofius Maximus, who just left a comment, which I'm sure you've heard before. He says, my BS meter broke like 20 minutes ago. I can assure you that Craig's a real deal. I've talked to him a number of occasions on different lives, and I've watched some interviews that he's done and followed him on social for quite a while. But why do people call BS on these stories for you? Like, is it just because it's too far out there for them? Like what do you think it is?
Yeah, I talked about this. You see this a lot in the Islamic community amongst Muslim men, and the concept and the idea that a guy can actually have multiple women and happy to live with you and happy to be with you, it's alien to them because it's not their experience with women. And so they have a very difficult time thinking and believing that that's possible for someone else, especially if they believe they're better than you. And most people online, they have that idea, if he can do it, I can do it better. And I can't imagine being able to do that. There's no way that guy can do it. It's just, it's limitations, self-limitations, and there's not much you can really do about it. You just keep living your life. And the proof is on my channel. I'm literally in this house that you can see it in the background. You can hear my women. I don't put them on camera. You can hear us all in one room having a conversation live. So it's not like the proof isn't there. The receipts are there. It's just go check them out. The videos are still up. Yeah.
You mentioned your YouTube channel. What's it called? Just so people can find it.
Yeah, Abuamerican, which is Abuamerican. Yeah. Okay.
So just drop the .com, plug that into YouTube, and you'll find his channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So talk a little bit about the vetting stuff. Can you give us 1 or 2 examples of maybe tests that you issue, or what it is that you look for when you're vetting for women to invite into your life on a more permanent basis to, cohab with you and other women?
Yeah. One of the tests actually I got from your channel, man. You're doing you showed how the if she opens the door for you type of thing, in the car. So one thing I came up with was holding my stuff. So and it comes in a pretty heavy backpack. I carry it. It's it's a lot of equipment. So one thing I'll do is I'll just fake like I have to go to the back. And this is sort of like the will she lock the door for you type thing. And so one girl, I was like, hold this for me. I went to the bathroom, made a couple phone calls, talked to a couple of girls. I came back out and I just made her carry my stuff around just to see how she, how she'd respond. And she didn't complain. She didn't here, take this off me or whatever else, it sounds very simple. What the heck, how's that anything? But it just shows what she's willing to go through for you as a man to carry around your heavy, bulky stuff, on a hot day and not complain about it. Another girl, I asked her to hold my hat. And she's really freaked out, no, what? Ew, what do you? And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. It was simple. It was my hat on a winter day. And I just asked her to hold it. So the same bathroom trick, but I didn't have anything heavy with me. And her just freak out, was was really clear. And it turned out she was really actually a bad person too. It took a couple more meetings to figure it out. But at that point, I was like, wow, okay. Oh, yeah. So I'll put them under some sort of emotional pressure, stress or whatever else and see how they respond to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've told the story before about this guy that I was carpooling with him for about an hour and a half going up to a lake house party a few years ago. And he was a Muslim guy from Indonesia. And he was telling me about the process that he used to vet women for girlfriend / marriage. And what he would do is on the first date was he'd invite him over and assign a task to them, like folding laundry or organizing his closet or some shit like that on a first date. I was like, how did that work out? He goes, worked out pretty good because my current wife, she's been with me for a while. Everything's awesome. She's totally my frame. Standard sort of stuff. But yeah, I find it interesting because it's unconventional, and most guys, when they hear it, they're like, oh, how can you do that? That's too much. That's it's way out there. It's like, okay, well, just you got to be open to other ideas. I often tell guys that a lot of us are looking for answers, and the solution to just about every problem that we experience in life has already been found, and it's often not within your realm of knowledge. It's just somewhere else. So I like having these conversations with people just to hear what they're all about and what they do with things. Like, I just think it's fascinating. Welcome to the channel, Juan Francesco Alonso, new channel member. Looks like we're pulling in a few new channel members today. Nice. By the way, guys, when you become a channel member, sometimes when I'm popping out videos, there's like 1,000, 2,000 comments. I don't have time to go through them all, but I always do sort the comments by channel membership. So if you ask a question about something you're watching in the video that needs clarity, I will find it and I will answer it. So that's another perk to joining the channel membership. Here's an interesting comment from a guy from the channel. He says, having a bunch of kids in broken families is the same thing as what happens in the West. So I guess he's arguing that because you've got 12 wives and 9 kids and some of them are with ex-wives, like, how does that work in Islam? Are you like, do you end up going through the divorce machine? Are you paying ridiculous amounts with child support, with alimony and all that? Or you just kind of work it out through the religion?
No, religiously, a woman is not entitled to alimony. She doesn't get any support. She's allowed to stay with you for 3 months. Islamically, it's called her iddah. She has 3 months, and then she has to leave your house. You shouldn't kick her out. She stays 3 months, but you're divorced, and then she's got to go. But after that, there's nothing. She doesn't get any payments. She doesn't get anything like this. You do take care of your children. Obviously, they're your children. I mean, I think that any man should want to do that in general. I mean, why did you have them? But otherwise, there's no obligation on you as a man whatsoever to the woman once the marriage is over. Financially, emotionally, nothing. That's it. She's now considered to be like we call it non-mahram. That means like she's a stranger to you, right. and that's in all ways. So
okay. So how do you deal with the risk with, like, if religion deals with the divorce component with financial resources, how do you deal with the stuff outside of that with the state? Because I assume in Germany, because it's a Western country, it's probably quite hostile towards fathers, and I guess she would have a legitimate petition to go to family court and get child support payments issued. Like here, for example, I suppose if I was Muslim and I had multiple wives, some of them might have been, divorced, and I've got a bunch of kids. If we split up and I tell her to take a hike and I say, look, the child needs whatever, $500 a month, I'm going to take care of that. Don't worry about it. Everything will be covered. But the child support tables based on my income say that she might get $4,000 from me. Like, how do you deal with that struggle that she's got in her head? Because women are solipsistic, they're hypergamous, they always want, what's best for them, of course. So why would she abandon her right to $4,000 a month and just settle on the $500 because of religion? Like, how do you deal with that part?
Well, I mean, actually, it works. Let me be clear. You can get caught up in the child support mill of the West. That's an absolute fact. Okay. A lot of families, not all, obviously, but a lot of families, it's more of a matter of shame, for that to happen. So you find that a lot of times it doesn't. Like my ex-wife in London, she doesn't ask me for a dime because that's just part of the religion. Guys don't take this wrong, but it's a simple fact of the matter is Muslims believe in general you shouldn't go to non-Muslims for like help and laws and rules and whatever else. It's considered something shameful. Why do we believe in Allah is the master of everything, and now we're going to turn to somebody that he himself created for laws and rules and whatever else? So generally, it's considered a matter of shame to actually go to the court system of the non-Muslims, to get you to do something that you should be doing already. So it can backfire on them to go to the courts, and it can backfire on you to not meet your obligation. Your obligation isn't very heavy, obviously, but nonetheless, if you don't do it, it can backfire on you because as Muslims, we do belong to communities, and we do use social shame. It applies to me, it applies to other people, and so that's something that still exists in Muslim communities. It can follow your name, in a bad way, no matter where you go in the world. So it tends to work itself out. But you do have families that will go to the court, and it sucks to be you if it happens, just like it does anyone else.
Okay, so I mean, like, the risk is there. I mean, she could get the bug in her ear from her girlfriend saying, "Hey, do you know, girl, you can get $4,000 a month if you do this, that, and the other thing." Blah blah blah. And it's like, wow, really? I can go do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
but if she comes from, if she
I
comes
mean,
from,
I would imagine the risk drops if you're living in a more father-friendly place, right? I mean, if you're living somewhere that's a Muslim country, like, why stay in Germany? I know that we talked a little bit about this before we launched, but why stay in Germany?
I mean, the kids from my ex-wife are here. I have 6 kids here. Well, not 6 anymore, but it's 4. And so I'm just here to be around them and help them, because they're mostly boys. I have a daughter, and it's just not good to have them out here in the society as we know it right now, trying to figure it out on their own. So I'm here to help them, and that's it. I have no other reason to be here. I actually don't like it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. Did you ever see that Netflix series? I think they ran it for one series. I can't remember what it was called, but it was about these, I don't know, it's out in Salt Lake or Utah. What's that religion where they have multiple wives, but it's Christian?
Like Mormons or something?
Mormons. Yeah, it was Mormons. And they live in this rock. There's like this cavernous rock, and towards the bottom, there's like this cutout with all these homes in it. They're kind of built into the rocks. And it's, it's a community of, it looks like something like, I don't know, maybe 30 to 50 homes or something like that. And they all have multiple wives, like 5, 6, 7 wives in some cases, living in the same house with like 15, 20, 25 kids in some cases, but lots going on. Did you ever see that series?
No, actually I didn't. Believe it or not, I have a TV, but I don't watch it. So I haven't watched actual TV in decades.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, you're better off that way. But I mean, sometimes I like to zone out to a series. But anyway, so the long and short of it is that in that culture, like in that religion, in that zone, it's really a bunch of beta males who have multiple wives and multiple children as a function of religion, because they all subscribe to the same narrative. So it works for them. But I can't think of a word to describe it other than really cringe. It's just cringy to watch these guys fighting with all these women constantly, the women fighting with each other constantly. Is that what it's generally like? Like, is that the uphill battle that you are always going to have to tackle with it?
I made a tweet a while back, and I said, women are like epileptic terrorists, emotional epileptic terrorists. At some point, they're going to have a seizure and a fit, or they're going to go off the reservation. I think all women, whether you're monogamous or you have multiple women, it's just part of who they are and their function as emotional creatures that they go off the reservation at some point. So if it's a constant problem, then you really need to look at the relationship on a whole and where you're running your game wrong. But in general, things should be smooth. I mean, as long as I keep these 2 women apart, I have a wonderful marriage. I mean, I wish wonderful marriages. I wish I had that with my ex. I call her Becky, because I could actually have them in the same house. I think I'd have knife fights again in this particular regards. So it really shouldn't be like, a bunch of battles and chaos and you shouldn't be arguing with women anyway. I don't know who the hell does that or why, but it really shouldn't be a rough ride. It should be pretty smooth, unless you're doing something wrong or you pick the wrong woman. That can also happen. You can do the right thing with individual women and then not look at how she's going to fit in with the other woman, because that's also a factor you need to look at when you're having a harem of women. How does she fit in with other women, not just you? Because if you're going to have them, as multiple women, and you're going to, run that as, in my case, as a family, then it's going to, you got to be a little bit smarter than just like, oh, but she responds really well to me. You have to look at how she responds and cooperates with her co-wife also. So if you don't take those steps, you're going to have a hell of a battle, and you're not going to figure out why, because they're doing their women catfight thing and you're not a woman. And so you shouldn't understand what's going on. Let me rephrase that. You should understand what's going on, but you're not going to be able to fix it. And if you do pay attention and you do it right, then you should have a very peaceful situation. There's no reason why you should have multiple women and like a bunch of problems. It actually gets easier if you did your homework right. Yeah.
And when it comes to stuff like intimacy, for example, is it one woman at a time? Do you guys all get together at the same time and just chop it up? Like, how does that normally work for you? Or does it just depend on the women that are in your life at the time?
Yeah, one woman at a time. It's not Islamically allowed to, do the menage a trois, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As
So
long as
be like,
it's
do you have
not
like a
loud, I want it
schedule? It's
done.
like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or with wife one, and Sunday through, the rest of the week you're with wife two. Like, how do you do that normally?
You could break it up how you want to. I mean,
Or you just sleep in your
there's three.
own room? Do you sleep in your own
You
room?
can do
Like, what do
that
you usually
too.
do?
Usually what I do is I do one night on, one night off. So generally my thing is like, up until sunset, it's your day. And then the next day, the next girl gets that. It's your day up until sunset. And then I switch which some guys, they do 3 days, some guys do 2 days, but generally I like to, switch it up every night. It's like, that's why I got multiple wives. I want to enjoy that as much as possible.
So is that the best part of it? Like the variety?
It definitely helps, I mean, I think, I'm pretty sure you're good with game or whatever else. After a while, women become women, so it's just kind of like, yeah, all right, good. You got that. Every woman's got that, you got to do a little bit better. So, yeah, but that helps. That does help having the variety. Absolutely.
Got it. So you said earlier, I don't know, it was like 25 minutes ago, but you said earlier that you kind of were brought to the red pill into like Rollo's work because of your early experiences getting involved with multiple women in your marriage. Like what was it that you needed to solve? Like what lessons did you learn from the red pill, I guess?
Man, that's a lot, dude. I mean, you can fill up the show with this. Okay. I learned a whole lot, that's why I love Rollo so much, man. I love that guy to death, man, because he really cracked the code for me. Let me say, I would get into relationships. I kind of had alpha game, like, for lack of a better term. We're just going to use that term because that's the term everybody understands, even if it's derided nowadays. I had a lot of alpha game and I did really well with women. But when I got into a relationship, I'd go really beta. Not really beta, but I'd kind of like, soften up and sort of like let down my guard. And so reading Rollo's work actually like cleared up what I was doing wrong. And so we know that this book is not really prescriptive, but I could use it prescriptively in terms of my actions because I understood what was happening. So in terms of the relationship, at first, I was running multiple wives like I was running a single one from like a sort of like a beta frame. And it was just all I was doing is amplifying all the problems that a man in a beta frame has in a relationship with a woman times 3. And it was, dude, I ended up in a cardiac hospital. I was so stressed out. It was so important to me to get it right. No, I'm not even joking, man. And I was in the hospital.
Hey, dude, I'm totally believing you here. Like, I'm not laughing at you. Trust me, I'm laughing with you on this one.
Yeah. So after I got out of the hospital, I kind of went crazy mad alpha on him. And this is when my firing streak started, and I was like, look, I said, when I get out of this hospital, if you don't follow the rules, you're gone. And I stuck to my word on that. And I mean, I just fired all 3 of them like within like 6 months. They were gone, all of them. And that's when my process of like, marrying and like starting to like, really figure out that you got to pick these women, accordingly and correctly. That's when my entire process started. And I ran into the manosphere. I think the first guy I ran into was like Corey Wayne. His work was, the 3% man was kind of some nice work. But then I ran into Rollo and that was it, man. That just closed the deal,
Yeah. Far better work over there. I got a super chat here from Neo. He says, the Unplugged Alpha, currently reading. Thank you, sir. Bomber Command. Yeah, it's an uncomfortable book of a lot of cold hard truth bombs. It's for guys. I get a lot of, well, not a lot, but I get some women that have messaged me like, oh, I'm going to get a copy too. I'm going to women's like, nope, don't buy it. If you have sons, maybe yes, give it to them, but it's not for women. This is a book for men to help clear their mind. And so, the kind of stuff that, Craig was talking about earlier, you don't invite into your world and end up in with a cardiac issue in the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Shit. Oh man. I like this conversation. We got like another 15 minutes or so before we should probably start wrapping up. But what are we missing here with this conversation? Like, what should guys know that they don't know when it comes to running harem game with multiple women? Go ahead.
What should they know that they don't know?
That they think they know, but they really don't know until they start running it. Aside from the drama and the stress component that still exists.
It's easier than you think. That's something that most guys don't know, but they should know. Most guys don't know that. Having multiple women is actually not a complicated issue. More women than most men would believe are okay with being in a harem. Something that incredulous to most men, it's really not. I find that singing in tune of like 70% of the women I talk to are completely okay with it. And then you'll have like maybe 10% who are not, and the rest, everything in between then they need convincing, not convincing, but they're sort of like on the fence, like, oh well, I don't know, I've never really dealt with anything like this. But hey, man, the bar is so low with men. Men out there are so just a mess with video games, pornography, whatever else. It's so easy to stand out and be that guy, that you can score multiple women openly a lot easier than you'd like to think it is. Most men don't know. It's not difficult. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
yeah.
Best place to source multiple women for the way that you run it?
Well, because I live in the bush. I live in the armpit of Germany. I use online. But generally, if I'm an agent, I do direct approaches. But because I live in the armpit of Germany, I use online.
How do women normally respond when you get to the conversation? And how do you get to the conversation? Like, I've already got 2 wives and 9 children and 12 ex-wives.
It depends on how I feel about the women. If I feel about, if I think she's attractive and I like her, I'll actually be more direct, and I'll bring it in, because I use cocky funny. It's my thing. And so I'll bring it in with jokes, but when they generally don't joke about that type of stuff, and they get that you're saying something, they're not stupid. They operate different. They understand subcommunication and subtext better than men usually do. And so I'll drop it in there and make it clear, and you'll catch their response early on. You can see it in their eyes, like, wait a minute, is this guy serious? He's serious, but she's laughing. And so I just, I stick to that program. With women that I have less like for, I'm just directly, I'm like, look, hey, you're going to be number 3. Is that the other? And usually that doesn't run them off, even though that's the intention. And I know that, but I'll be more direct with them.
Got it. I got a few questions here from the chat on Facebook, on YouTube. So he lives, no, it's not Qatar. He's in Germany right now. And we got another one here. If Abuamerican could move to an ideal environment or country, would it be Southeast Asia or the Middle East or Africa?
Asia.
Why Asia?
Far East Asia. Asian women, man. My experience with Asian women is amazing. I find they're naturally just in a submissive frame already. That doesn't give you playroom to just let down your guard. It's just it makes your life easier. I think everybody knows I'm famous for not tying my shoes. I literally don't tie my shoes. I mean, there's a lot of just basic stuff like that, like putting on my pants and whatnot in the morning, shirts, all that stuff. She does all that stuff for me, dude. It's just it's amazing.
Let's talk about the shoe tying. So that tends to drive some like hardcore militant feminists nuts. So talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand oh man, where to start with this? Yeah, you said it yourself. I think it was earlier. You said, that women today are taught not to do anything for the express pleasure of a man. And so obviously tying my shoes is done expressly for my pleasure. And that just, it makes them break out in fumes. They just go crazy. Their heads explode. What drives me crazy is that you find that a lot of men are actually like, will attack me, for this also. It's just the weirdest thing, So when I did that,
throw in your jacket and you sit down, you're like, yo, babe, can you tie up my shoes for me?
Actually, I don't have to ask. She understands I'm going outside, so she brings them. She just asked me, which shoes am I putting on? Because I have multiple pair of shoes, and so she's like, you want the Hugo? Do you want these ones? Do you want the Nikes? So she'll just ask me which ones I'm putting on, and then she'll bring them and put them on.
Nice. Socks too, or just shoes?
No, socks, everything. It's the same thing in the bathtub. I sit in the bathtub. I have a chair, and I say, babe, I'm gonna take a shower. She comes in, she scrubs me. I just sit there, I lift my feet, raise my arms. She does my armpits, scrubs me and everything. This is, I can't video that, of course, Islamic rules, but this is how I live. And I mean, Asian women in general, they're willing to do this. And so I would move to Asia just because it's like, wow.
So I mean, like, you find that there's some differences with culture, even if it's within Islam. So if you have an African Muslim, she's less likely to do it than an Asian Muslim.
No, actually, African women are also good. They'll do it also. It's just I don't know. Yeah. Something about Asia has I guess I got the Asian fetish like everybody else.
You got a bit of yellow fever. Awesome.
Yeah, I guess that it hit me. Yeah, so
you're good. All right, so we got like 10 more minutes. So what else can we talk about before we wrap up here? Like, what should guys know about running game with multiple women that we haven't talked about yet? That's super important.
What we haven't talked about, that's super important. Oh man, there's a lot there, man. I don't know. I'm really bad at like freestyling like this on this particular regard. Just guys, if you're gonna do it, just be smart. Look, having a woman, and I said this before, but I'm going to reiterate this point because it's very important. Just because she responds well to you doesn't mean she's going to respond well to another woman just because it's you. And I mean, we've had like guys like, the Tates were supposed to be here, and they've told plenty of stories about this where, women freak out and they cause a lot of problems, and you just got to get rid of them. So it's not enough that she's into you. She has to be like completely compliant type of woman, and you have to look for this type of woman, and they're out there. Don't believe the hype. They are out there. That doesn't mean she's going to be around forever. I mean, I think you guys like to say, it's not my girl, it's just my turn.
It's not yours, it's your turn.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to let them go, and you can't be ashamed of it. You can't be shy.
Oh, you froze up, dude. You still there? Hang on, I'm going to pull him out of the stream and bring him back.
The same thing. You got to be able to, find a woman and then see who she really is, because you're not going to see who she really is.
Back up about 10 seconds because your audio totally froze. Just back up about 10 seconds.
Yeah, sorry guys. My internet over here is real crappy. I was saying, just because she's responding well to you doesn't mean anything. And running game, some guys out here running game, they got like a body count of 200 and whatnot, quite impressive or whatever else. It's the same thing getting married, in Islam, because there's no consequences, just like there's no consequences to one night stands or whatnot, although it is different. So you got to view it the same way. Just in the same way you get rid of a woman in game who's not fitting your lifestyle or what you want, you do the same thing Islamically. I mean, you can't be ashamed of it, and you can't let people point fingers at you. Oh, well, you got 12 X's or whatever else. Just like the guy in the comments was saying, I'm not crapping on him. I'm just saying, if I was a player and I had 200 bodies or 300 bodies, he'd be like, wow, champ. But now when I'm bringing women in, vetting them real time, and looking for like the red flags as they pop up, because women are good at hiding the red flags also, just like some guys are. And sometimes you got to get rid of them later. Yeah, look at these things, guys, and pay attention to how she functions with other women, not just you. And I call these pro-cooperative attributes. You have to look for these things in women, in terms of how she's going to cooperate, with your plan and with other women who are within your frame. This is a point that a lot of guys don't take when they're trying to run, game. They think, oh, she loves me, so she's going to do anything for me. Yeah, she'll do anything for you, but you put another woman in the box. It's like putting two cats in a box. Some cats are going to get along, others aren't. And so these are things you have to look at.
Is there any merit to letting your wives find new wives, so at least they're kind of doing the pre-vetting so they get along before you even talk to them?
I've never had it really work. I mean, every time a woman brings me another woman, she's less prettier than her. And I'm like, I'm trying to upgrade or at least go equal.
Well, that makes sense, right? Like, why would your wives bring in a chick that's younger and hotter than her?
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't want to replace herself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where you're getting the drama from, because you're bringing in a brand new model. It's like you've been driving the same Honda Accord for 200,000 miles. And you're like, you know what? I think I like that new Civic Turbo R SI Model 71. And you bring her and you're like, and she looks at her, she's like, damn, she's hotter and younger than me, man. I'm going to bust out the knife.
Yeah, I ran into a drama with my wife that's in UAE. I have a wife in UAE, and she really freaked out because I married a 22-year-old German recently. She really lost it. It was a drop dead beautiful 22-year-old German girl. She was totally cool with like multiple wives and everything, but it just didn't work out. The age difference was pretty significant, and her mentality was pretty bad, because of it. But she went epileptic terrorist, the other one. So yeah, stuff you got to deal with.
Got a couple of we got Flex Wheeler over here, Mark Daniels. He says, I remember having 3 going at one time, 3 steady girls, plus I had one other woman on the side. It about drove me crazy. I remember saying, God, get me out of this. Yeah. Brofius Maximus, I'm wondering how what is that? Imam reacts to the Imam running game? What is that? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, Imam is like a pastor or a preacher. They have a little bit more authority in the Islamic community. I'm using terms that guys will understand because I'm going with the concept and the understanding that most guys are not going to be Muslim viewers. So when I say game, it's not in the sense that you understand game in the West. It's just an easier term for guys to understand and associate to what I'm saying, to relate to what I'm actually talking about. But game in the sense of running game, it's not the same. It's not what I'm talking about. I just don't know how else to explain it to you.
Got it. Let me throw up. Is Twitter the best place for people to find you at, bro?
Yeah, it's the easiest place to get a hold of me. It's the fastest and easiest.
All right. So if you want to find Craig, he's at Abuamerican. He's got a website, as you can see on the bottom, abuamerican.com, and you have a program on Gumroad on learning how to vet women for, I guess it's living with multiple women in one house.
Indeed. I've got two of it, actually. I just don't advertise a lot. I'm not a really salesy type of guy. Maybe I've got one up on running a polygynous household. It's a video course.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And a lot of people get like, you know, after I listen to this, it doesn't sound like he really knows what he's talking about. Guys, I can assure you, like one of the things guys say to me, oh, you know, what do you know about running a game? You're like, you're divorced, Rich. It's like, I can promise you, I know a lot more about marriage and divorce than people that are still married. I guarantee I know a hell of a lot more based on my experiences and the thousands of guys that I talk to. So don't discount, you know, somebody's struggles from their past. A lot of the times guys like Craig or we do make our wounds our work, and that's why we're able to get so creative and solve a lot of these problems later on down the road for ourselves, so we don't end up in stupid places like in hospitals stressed out from women.
Yep.
Yeah, let's wrap it up on that note. I enjoy talking to you, man. This was fun. This was fun. So you can find him, man. Yeah, so you can find him there. Abuamerican. I'm pointing down like this, but it's really like, hang on, let's see if we get this right there. Find him over there. But yeah, dude, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Give it a like, leave a comment below. Maybe we'll see if we can get Tristan on at another day, because he's got a slightly different angle to the whole running multiple women simultaneously. But yeah, thanks, brother. We'll see you later, eh?